So this is a private game. It's UK, so it's sterling. It's a 2-5 optional 10. The 10's on most of the time. It's £1,000 stack to start, match half the stack, and we've probably been playing for 5 to 6 hours. So the stacks range from 2k to 12k at this point.
Okay, so £1,000 match a stack. Okay, and how deep are you in this?
Match half stack.
How deep are you in the? What's the effective stacks in this hand?
The stacks range from 2 to 12. I'm about 4k, a little bit over at this stage, and villain stack is just over 4k as well. So
Okay.
effective is 4-1, 4-2, something like that.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so we're in the small blind with 2 red 3s. So the game's 2-5-10.
Okay.
We get a couple of folds, and from middle position, the guy who hosts the game makes it 50. That's his regular raise. Most people raise 30, 35, but 50 is fairly standard for the individual.
Okay.
Couple of passes. Button calls the 50.
Okay.
I complete the 50 as well.
Okay.
The small blind completes, and the straddler 10 completes as well to make it 5 ways for 250.
So you're in the small blind. The big blind calls and the straddler calls.
The straddler also calls, so there's 5 of us for 250 in the middle.
All right, so MP1 to 50, button calls, hero calls, and small blind, and then the blinds call as well. Just a quick question here. So it's 250 here to the flop. If the button had not called, what would you have done here?
I think I'm just calling here.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting to note, like because I play a lot of these three blind games in Texas. I think this is one of the worst spots for a small pair, like in the first blind. And I now routinely fold. I don't think there's anything, especially like cutoff button opens, to a 5x open, and you got like deuces or threes in the small blind with 2 people to your left in the blinds. I think you can just fold. Obviously, you guys are deep, and I think it also matters, like if you're up against a guy that's opening, that's just going to lose endless amounts of money with an overpair, that comes into play too. But it's just something of note. That's why I asked you. So
yeah,
okay.
I shared a hand with someone else, and it's like every hand history you tell anyone. As soon as you tell them the hand history and they know it's interesting, they say fold pre.
Yeah.
But yeah, they genuinely said there's just too much chance.
So all right, what's at the flop?
So the flop comes Jack of clubs, 4 of spades, 3 of clubs.
Jack of clubs, 4 of spades, 3 of clubs. So you have bottom set.
We've got bottom set.
Yep. Okay.
We've got bottom set, first rack, 5 way. So I check this.
Mm-hmm.
So big blind checks, straddler checks, pre-flop raiser checks, and the button checks.
So it checked around.
Yeah, which is somewhat unusual for this game. It's really unusual for the pre-flop raiser not to have had some action.
Okay.
So turn is the 8 of hearts. So Jack 8, 4, 3, 2 clubs.
Yep, Jack of clubs, 4 of spades, 3 of clubs, turns the 8 of hearts. Hero has pocket 3s, bottom set, out of the small blind, got checked around the flop, okay?
So I decide I need to do something. Yeah, so I lead for 150 into the 250.
Okay.
The big blind calls behind me, doesn't seem to have any particular difficulty in doing so.
Okay.
The original straddler wants to make it 550.
So the straddler raises to 550.
Yep.
Okay.
So the pre-flop raiser and the button get out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a slow call here.
So you call. So obviously you're behind here. I mean, it's not a guarantee. I don't know how this game plays. I would say most of the time, someone with all that dead money, someone's going to 3-bet jacks out of the straddle, right?
Hey, I don't think jacks is in this range. I agree.
Right. So it could be 4s, it could be 8s, right? And then you've got, I mean, I guess it could be a combo draw that he might have been trying to like check raise on the flop, or something that might have turned into a combo draw, on the turn.
Yeah, and Yeah, I mean, yeah, it certainly isn't impossible that he was aiming for a check raise as well, because I think everyone's surprised the flop gets checked around. The flop got checked around, so it's absolutely possible he was aiming for a check raise on the flop.
Yeah, and I think you're
And
too deep
also,
to really put in the 3-bet here. I mean, you're out of
yeah,
position, so I think the play is to call. I agree. Big blind folds.
big blind gets out of the way. It's all got a bit scary.
So it looks like it's
Uh,
1350 pound sterling. As it well, excuse
I
me, it's 550
50 exactly 15 in the middle, I reckon.
1500. Okay. 1500.
Two 550s and a 150 on this street, plus a 250 from the flop.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That seems right. So now your head's up to the river.
Yeah, the river comes the 8 of clubs.
So the river pairs the board. So I'll do just a real
Pairs the board and brings the flush in.
Yep, I'm going to do a brief recap for the podcast people. Again, it was MP1 makes it 50, button calls, hero calls in the small blind with threes, big blind straddle call, jack 4-3, hero flops bottom set. Checked around. Turns an 8. Hero bets 150, big blind call, straddle makes it 550. Straddle is not the preflop raiser, by the way. MP1 folds, button folds, hero calls, big blind folds, 1,500 pounds sterling to the river, and the river is the 8 of clubs. So it completes the front door flush, right? But it obviously gives you a full house.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about what hands are in his range here, because as you say, a bunch of combo draws, particularly with the 8 of clubs in it, look like things he might bet on the turn.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously all those combo draws with the 8 of clubs don't exist anymore in his range.
Yep. And obviously the set of 8s combos goes from 3 to 1 down to quads now, right?
But Jack 8, I mean, to be honest, yeah, I think he's calling 80% of his hands here from the straddle in this game. So anything's possible, but Jack 8 and 8-4 are also distinctly possible.
Yeah, I mean, if he's got all the Jack 8 offs, that's going to be a lot of value combos, right? Because that's going to, I mean, there's 2 8s left in the deck, so 6 Jack 8s if it's all the Jack 8s, and that might be probably not going to call all the way down to 8-4 off, but maybe 4-8 suited, and there's another, it looks like spade heart clubs. There's one of combo of those. You look at the suits of the 4 and the 8. So that's 7, and then you lose to 3 pocket 4s is 10. You lose to 1 quad 8s here too. But then now you're beating the flushes here too, right?
Beating all the flushes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that probably the play here is to check. I mean, I don't know what kind of player this guy is, but he doesn't know that you have a set. So he should be betting.
I mean, he's a big internet winner.
He's a big internet winner. Interesting.
Yeah.
I would think that he would be betting flushes here at the end when you check to him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I decided I was going for the check here as well.
Yep, that's what I was saying. I mean, it's not like you're going to lose value from flushes here, right?
No, it's okay. So now he moves in for 35.50 into 1,500.
35.50 all
Yeah.
in. Wow. 35.50 all in. So he bets over 2x the size of the pot. So the pot's going to be just over 5,000 pounds, and it's going to be 35.50 for you to call. So obviously, you know, you're not even getting 1.5 to 1. And, you know, if we do it from an MDF perspective, of course, MDF being minimum defense frequency, if he's risking pot, he needs to be able to get through a bluff 50% of the time. If he's risking 2x pot, he needs to be right 66% of the time, which means that you need to you need to call down with 33% of the hands that you get here with. I mean, the reason why I bring that up is because if you're saying like he's an internet guy, he's a big winning internet guy, I would imagine that his sort of fundamentals would be rather sound. I also think that you have clubs here too.
Yeah, I think a lot of my range here is flush draws when I bet and just
right and just call.
On the turn.
So I mean, pocket threes has to fall into the top 33% of your hands, right?
I guess so.
I mean, you can make huge deviations in a sense of, you know, if you're playing against guys that are just never going to put it in. But if the guy is a big internet winner, and especially if you guys are in, you know, the UK where he's an internet winner with the tough European sites or the open Poker Stars, right? Not like Poker Stars Pennsylvania. You know, I think it's something to be said to be a big internet winner living in Europe. That's going to be like one of the best players in the world. depending on the state. I mean, one of the best no limit players in the world. So if you're playing against somebody that's really, really good, there's absolutely no reason to just try to get as baseline as possible, right? And that's how I would look at this spot, where sometimes people will go into like MDF when looking at a live player, and I'm like, come on, this is, off the rails. But here, you might just straight go with the theory and be like, am I here? Is this going to be the best, one out of third hands that I have here?
I mean, I was quite lucky. So someone distracted the table at this point by telling a really amusing anecdote, which took some of the pressure off of the amount of time I took to make a decision here. But yeah, in the end, I just couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't believe that I should ever fold here. But I'm conscious I am losing to some combos, and that all these horrible hands like Jack 8 have got there. But I think I've just got a call.
Yeah. So you made the call?
I made the call.
Mm-hmm. And
he flips over Jack 4 suited for the other 2 pair.
So he turned Jack 4 into a bluff.
Yep.
Wow, that is some. And again, by the way, I think that specific combo brings up a point here. This is why, and I didn't know the answer to this. Tony, right? Is that what your name is, Tony? Or no, that was the last call. Paul, sorry. Yeah, I mean that brings up a point. The reason why that brings up a point is because you won't see somebody that's not playing, say, close to optimal, or somebody that's really good, and hold him here, make this play, and turn Jack 4 into a bluff. You're not going to see it, right? He's blocking pocket 4s,
Yeah, it's a good hand to turn into a bluff because he needs to get flushes to fold.
Yeah, he's blocking pocket 4s, right? So really, and it's either going to be quad 8s, they cut out. So on this club, it's probably a really good choice of a bluff if he shows up with it that way. So if he's capable of having these bluffs here, then you have to go back. You have to go to the baseline. And like I said, I would just look at it like from an MDF perspective. And it's interesting, like if you had the nut flush here, what would you have done if you had the nut flush here? I think you start to have to drill into some combos of flushes that you think that you have, What would you have done with the nut flush?
I think I'm calling with the nut flush. But having said that, I'm not sure he's well. I mean, the nut flush is pretty much the same as the hand I have, except the only difference is he can't have the nut flush if I have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think of like how it falls into your the hands that you get here with type of thing. You know what I mean? It's an interesting. That's why I said that maybe you really drill into it. It's like you possibly have something to do with the other card that you have in your hand to get. It's hard to do off the top of the head, but because then you're like, what other combo draws do I have here? Do I continue here with like the 9-10 of clubs? Do I continue with 9-7 of clubs? Obviously 5-7 of clubs, 5-6 of clubs, things like that, right? And then you have to think, well, what am I cold calling the small blind here to 5x too? You really have to go down that route. But I think that this definitely demonstrates that trying to get as close to baseline as possible against a big winning player that you think is capable, is the right play. I appreciate the call, Paul. Thank you very much. Thanks for hanging on. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, and check out the coupon code in the description to try out the Crush Live Poker training site for free.